The focus of this film is to analyze perceptions of feminists and the construction of feminist stereotypes by gender. A feminist, as described by typical dictionary definitions, is one who advocates for the social, political, legal, and economic equality of women and men. Given the historically subordinate position of women, this means that feminism has been primarily concerned with the advancement of women's status in order to place them on a more equal standing with men. As anthropology students, we found this doctrine and gender perceptions of its adherents intriguing as a research topic for several reasons. One reason is that feminism, with its focus on correcting existing inequalities between men and women, is inherently focused on gender, a subject of long-standing anthropological interest. Another reason is because feminist movements have historically been subject to strong opposition by male-dominated political bodies, suggesting that a person's gender may influence his or her perceptions of feminists. To test this idea, we conducted interviews with a pool of participants composed of men and women, feminists and non-feminists, gauging their opinions and beliefs regarding feminists. The questions that we asked were designed to address participants' ideas regarding feminist identity, beliefs, image, distribution, and other characteristics, so as to gain a multifaceted, holistic view of their perceptions of feminists. These interviews follow.
I would say no. I don't consider myself to be a feminist. Why not? I'm probably not active enough in my pursuit of that.
I don't consider myself a feminist because I believe there are some fundamental biological and neurological differences between men and women that cannot be totally ignored. A feminist is part of the movement to remove all gender as well as cultural biases from governmental systems, personal interactions, and I think a fundamental feminist belief, well, the most fundamental belief is the equality of all people.
Okay.
Fundamental feminist belief is that the current position of women historically has been lower to that of men, and I don't like it. And they are trying to correct that and search for equality or maybe even just more strength in their community.
Okay.
I don't believe there's one specific group. I believe more women and more people of minority status consider themselves feminists because they're more likely to recognize what they feel to be oppression than someone of a privileged status would.
Women, I would say it's a women-dominated group. Strong women. Absolutely. Yes. I would say no, probably because they've had unity of cause for some time, for at least as long as I know the movement has been occurring.
I believe that it is a diverse movement. Similar in that a lot of them are women, but I believe it's a diverse group, so no.
I can't say I've seen many feminists, but probably not. I don't think they all look similar. Strong, very strong connotations. Good speakers, opinionated perhaps, but strong in the way they present themselves.
I know for a lot of people, feminism brings up like women's protesters and that, but I'm coming from a philosophy background, so I tend to have a connotation of feminist thinkers.
Hi, my name is Lexy Wagner, and I am a feminist. A feminist is someone who believes in liberating people from patriarchy and rape culture and gender roles. Patriarchy is basically the belief that men and masculinity are superior and more worthy than women and femininity and everything associated with that.
Hi, I'm Jobina, and I'm a feminist.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm a feminist.
I'm Bibi Lewis.
I'm a feminist because I don't think that I should have less rights or opportunities just because of what's between my legs.
One male participant opted not to appear on camera and instead submitted written answers to our questions. His responses will be read aloud. Given the interpretation that feminism implies the political, social, and ethical equality of the sexes, that allows for greater freedom from gender roles and allows for the society to deal comprehensively with the ingrained, systemic restraints designed originally for men to operate in to the disadvantage of women.
There's nothing inherently better about being one gender or another, and that everyone should have the equal rights.
I think you have to believe in like basic equality, not just like gender equality, but racial equality, like equality of like, you know, it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation or like any of that stuff is. Like,
People who believe that the current system has antiquated aspects which disadvantage women.
I think ideally everyone should, but in general it's women and people who, you know, are politically involved and aware and want to make a change in the world and want to change what they see as a huge problem affecting women all over the world.
Yes, because these problems are intrinsic to any swath of society that contains women, i.e. all of them.
I don't know about that, because I feel like the people who identify themselves and say, I'm a feminist, are all pretty similar, but I think that if you go down to the core beliefs, that we would find that there's a lot larger of a group than as identified.
Based on my exposure, you know, from the small conservative hometown that I came from and the small, very white college town that I currently am at, I would say I haven't, you know, seen that much diversity in the feminist movement. It is mostly white women, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact that historically white women have sort of usurped the movement and sort of use it to, you know, only work for their ends and just sort of ignore women of color.
Some parts of society view the diverse branches of feminism in a negative view, as radicals seeking to upend some old utopia where gender roles solved all of society's problems.
People view feminists as man-hating. They think that feminists believe that women should be superior to men, that they're lesbians, that they wear like boots, shave their head.
I think the stereotypes and like that type of negative image is really like pervasive in like media and stuff like that. Like that's the only image of a feminist you really get. So like people are really reluctant to identify it, even though like people tend to agree with like its platform.
I think a lot of people have the perception that feminists are angry, or that they just really want to dominate men, or that, you know, obviously they're lesbians and, you know, they're masculine and ugly and whatnot.
'Cause we're angry! People say a lot of mean things about feminists. They think like we're all man-haters and we're all lesbians and we all just want to be men, but that's not true.
Well, I identify as a male, so...
I am a lesbian. I am pretty angry about some of these issues.
I lived in Greenwich Village.
I think that the fact that there are those stereotypes is what's damaging, because it creates this idea that women who assert themselves and are trying to like, you know, put themselves on equal footing as men in our society, that there's something like almost inherently negative about that.
Changing a little bit, but definitely in the beginning, the stereotypes of like bra-burning angry women was definitely, you know, made us seem a little silly. And
I think it's really easy to sort of ignore the needs of a group of people if you sort of just reduce them to like an object of your derision. So if you're, instead of thinking of them as people, you're just thinking of them as like these stereotypes, it's really sort of easy to just ignore what they're saying and pretend it doesn't matter because, oh, they're just a bunch of angry, hairy dykes. That's obviously why it's harmful to the movement, because it allows, people who aren't feminists to just sort of ignore and laugh at feminism and just act like it's not important.
Using the responses of these participants, we arrived at some interesting conclusions regarding the nature of gender, feminism, and common perceptions of feminists. As expected, and in accordance with most current scholarship on feminism, the group that identified as feminists offered the most thorough and comprehensive definitions of the term feminist and displayed the strongest awareness of what feminism entailed. Aside from commonly mentioning the fundamental belief that feminism strives for the equality of all people, these respondents include other issues, such as race and sexuality within the scope of the movement, reflecting scholarly depictions of the word feminist as a diverse term of multiple meanings. In contrast, the group of respondents that did not identify as feminists offered more narrow definitions of the term, although they cited the same basic goals of women's advancement and gender equality as central feminist beliefs, and expressed their support for these goals despite dissociating themselves from feminism. This response also matches scholarly findings which have found that many self-identified non-feminists are willing to support feminist goals even if they do not adopt the feminist label. Also meeting our expectations, the feminist group was strongly aware of feminist stereotypes, what they constituted, and why they are prevalent. The non-feminist group, however, surprisingly demonstrated the opposite, and furthermore did not cite negative feminist stereotypes as reasons for their aversion to the label feminist, as we had predicted. Similarly, they exhibited no apparent antipathy to feminists or feminism on account of their male gender. This, combined with the apparent lack of concrete differences between the views of men and women in the feminist group, suggests that gender and negative stereotypes may not influence perceptions of feminists as strongly as we had expected. However, the small sample size, liberal academic environment of this study, and our inability to procure equal numerical representation by gender and relationship with feminism may detract from the soundness of these findings.